this video is all about bear guns and specifically what makes a great bear gun. This is a topic that's hashed out around campfires, disputed online, and has probably been resulted in the police getting called to break up a Thanksgiving dinner or two. Now, the problem is that a lot of people have opinions about great bear guns, but that's not always based on really good or valid information or like real world experience. But to really understand like what makes a good bear gun and to maybe pick a great bear gun for you, like you just need better information. Over the 23 years that I've lived in Alaska, if there's anything I've learned, it's killing bears. I've been an assistant guide on Fognak Island, hunted brown bears there, and on the Alaska Peninsula. Spent a lot of time hunting bears in interior Alaska. And I mean, over the time I've been here, I average killing 2 to 4 bears per year myself.
I hunt grizz.
Grizz?
Grizzly bears, Pilgrim. I collect the claws.
And that's not to say I'm the most experienced person out there, because there's people that are more experienced than I am, but I've seen enough to recognize the BS and just like bad information that's often published and put out in videos like this. So we're going to talk about like what you need to know to select a good bear gun. There's no perfect bear gun for every scenario, and the important thing is understanding the context and application. And with that information, you can kind of make a better choice than just picking what the guy at the gun store counter tells you to. There are a lot of great bear guns out there, but to pick something practical and useful, you really need to understand the application, how you're going to use it. Like a guide gun is not always going to make the best hunting rifle, and the greatest bear hunting rifle in the world is often not going to be a really good option for bear defense if you're hiking or doing some other activity. So we're going to look at all of that. And I'm going to show you a few of my like favorite bear guns, and hopefully better equip you to really understand, bears and bear guns and what's going to work for you, because that's the most important thing. So let's get into it. So if you like this video, be sure and like and subscribe to Outdoor Life's channel down below, and feel free to leave your comments. Let us know what you think is going to be the best bear gun. All right, the first category of bear guns that we're going to talk about is generally, if you were to, maybe do a poll, like this is what people think when they think bear guns, and that's guide guns. So I guess to put a loose definition on a guide gun is a powerful rifle that a bear hunting guide is going to carry to fix their client's mistakes if they happen to make a bad shot. Now, stereotypically, this is the gun that a guide's going to, take into the alders like this to go crawling around and find a wounded bear, where on your hands and knees crawling through the brush until you corner the bear and he charged you. Well, it doesn't usually work like that, but a guide gun in form needs to be relatively handy. A lot of guys like iron sights because this is a close range kind of finishing gun. A guide's gun is not like the most ideal hunting rifle. This is for up close, whether a bear just needs finished off in the brush or, actually charges you and you got to stop it. So a guide gun can be a really good hunting rifle, specifically for shorter distances, which in a lot of bear hunting is common. Whether you got an optic or iron sights, a lot of times distances under 100 yards is not a big deal, and they work really well because they run really well offhand. But a guide gun's real strength and purpose is when you have to follow a hit bear, and unfortunately, hopefully not a poorly hit bear, into stuff like this, because that's where they're going to go. And it's not always, you shouldn't have the expectation that you're going to get charged, because a lot of times that doesn't happen. But as you pick through the brush, looking for, watching blood and looking ahead for the bear, if they're not dead, a lot of times you're just trying to maneuver for any shot you can get to finish the bear off. And a lot of times it's, you spook them and have to shoot really quick before they get away. Or maybe like in the scenario we've got set up, you shoot them and they come at you. So you're picking through the brush, kind of see the bear, see a glimpse of hair, squat down. and you can shoot pretty quickly and maneuver pretty effectively. Now, these guns are a lot of times chambered in real heavy cartridges that penetrate really well. And that's because if a guide is having to use his gun, he's not going to be able, he doesn't have the luxury of picking the shot angle. You just got to like shoot the bear when you can. So you want bullets that are going to penetrate really well and do a lot of damage. Now, this is probably one of the most popular and my favorite type of guide guns, the Ruger M77 Hawkeye. This one is the guide gun model. Now, in the little bit of brown bear guiding I did, I carried this earlier version, which is basically the same gun. It's a Hawkeye Alaskan, chambered in .375 Ruger that has a 24-inch barrel. But the Ruger guide gun itself, I like a little bit better. It has a 20-inch barrel that comes equipped. It comes with this muzzle brake and a threaded muzzle, and like a really good tip for anyone if you get one of these is you just take that muzzle brake and you throw it as far as you can, because that thing is stupid, and as soon as you torch your round off in the alders with that, like, you're gonna regret it. So they do fortunately come with a thread protector that I much prefer. I mean, it's still, or you could use a suppressor. It's still loud, but for a guiding application, like, these guns kick hard, but there really is like no valid, I don't think any valid excuse for using the muzzle brake on them. So that's a Ruger guide gun. It features, you know, these all have a strong Mauser style controlled feed action. That's just, it's been proven reliable over many years. You can mount like a low power optic, some guys like, but I prefer, you know, if I'm in tight brush, just to use the iron sights. These have a nice express, like African style express iron sights on them that are really quick to pick up. And these guns, they shoulder really quickly and they cycle really fast. This particular gun I have used to shoot a grizzly that was running towards me. It wasn't really running it wasn't charging me, but shot a grizzly running at me at about 15 yards and was able to get 2 shots on it pretty quickly. You know, this one I've used on a couple brown bear backups and killed, you know, the only bear I've ever had to shoot in self-defense was with this gun. The Ruger guide guns have a kind of a traditional style hinged floor plate and a 3-position safety. So you've got like bolt locked if you're just like have the rifle slung going through the brush so you don't lose your bolt. The middle position is safe, but you can still manipulate the bolt. You can unload the rifle if you need to and then fire. These ones have kind of an ugly laminate stock that's short, and they don't come with a sling stud here. They've got like the safari style ring, but they do have adjustable length of pull from these spacers. And these are just like a really good, solid, dependable rifle. You know, these are available in 30-06, 338, I think 300 Win Mag, and 375 Ruger, and even 416 Ruger. You know, if you are gonna buy it specifically as a guiding rifle, one of the bigger cartridges is not a bad idea. But honestly, like, even in 30-06, this is a really formidable, nice brush rifle. So another classic guide rifle is Marlin 1895 in 45-70. Now, this particular one, my uncle used for many years guiding on Kodiak Island, and has all kinds of stories of having to shoot big brown bears in the brush with it. Now, you know, a lot of the modern ones use a little bit shorter barrel, which is it's gonna hurt your velocity a little bit, but at the ranges we're talking about, like, it's not gonna matter so much. You know, you get with this gun, you get all the benefits of a lever action. You get like a really quick pointing gun, nice like quick cycling, and they're a lot of times more slender, easier to carry, you know, carry in one hand and maneuver through the brush. And it's just an all-around classic, solid option. Now, 45-70, you know, if you talk to a lot of guides using them, they're using either hand-loaded ammo or specific factory-loaded ammo that's at a lot higher test, because most of your factory ammo is going to be loaded to lower pressures and fairly like mediocre velocities. Kind of the popular options with 4570 are like, you know, heavy cast 405 grain bullets or heavier. I like jacketed 400 grain soft points loaded basically to the hilt, to the max, because you're wanting as much velocity as you can get with this, but you're shooting a really big slug that's going to penetrate really well, and a rifle that allows you to shoot and reload and shoot again quickly and accurately. All right, and the last one I've got here is my buddy Mark's guide gun that he's been using for backing up bear hunters for quite a while. And just to point out, this is a Browning A Bolton 375 H&H. And just point out like characteristics of a guide gun. You've got your novel rust, you know, little rust patches. Mine have them too. And you'll see on a lot of guns like these wraps of electrical tape, and that's to have a bunch of extra electrical tape to keep your muzzle sealed and keep water, moisture, and sticks and junk out of there. So, you know, a lot of hunters and guides in Alaska will have electrical tape wrapped around their barrels so they can just pull some off after they shoot and put it back on the muzzle. But this one's set up to use with a scope if you want, or just good old iron sights in the brush. And I'm pretty sure he had this barrel chopped down by 3 or 4 inches. So it's about a 20-inch barreled 375 H&H. You just died, Mark. So a guide gun's strengths are like speed and maneuverability in the brush. And although, you know, everyone talks about, you know, stopping a bear charge, and that's really like kind of a less likely scenario for the vast majority of people. But whether it's stopping a charge or just having to maneuver to get shots off in thick cover, a guide gun really can give you some advantages. And so we've set up this little scenario with staggered targets, you know, kind of pretending that we have edged into the brush on a wounded bear, shoot him, and he charges, and we've got I got to do a little bit of moving and maneuvering to kind of backpedal and get clear shots, you know, safely while running the gun and hopefully shooting accurately. Because ultimately, the only thing that really matters is being able to shoot your gun accurately and get shots on the bear, because that's the only thing that's going to make a difference. All right, so we've looked at guide guns, and although, you know, a lot of people might tell you that's what you need in a bear hunting rifle, for most people that's really not what's going to be ideal. You know, bears, even big coastal brown bears, are not that tough to kill, and they're pretty soft animals. You know, even a huge black bear has ribs literally about the size of a number 2 pencil and large exposed vitals, and any, you know, small to medium caliber like rapidly expanding bullet will kill them just as quick as anything. You know, the big magnums offer heavier bullets that will penetrate deeper, you know, where a guide can't pick his shot angles. But hunting, you kind of have a responsibility to pick a good shot angle, and it's going to work every time. So what makes a good bear hunting rifle? I mean, in short, it can be whatever you need it to be, but it needs to be shootable. You know, a rifle that you're very comfortable with and can shoot well, say like the deer rifle that you've been using for years, is going to make a much better bear rifle for you than buying, you know, the dusty 375 H&H down at the local gun store, because, you know, that's what you hear everyone needs to use. So we're going to go through a few bear hunting rifles that I like, and I'm going to tell you what I like about them. And, you know, you can take that information kind of in context and use it hopefully to decide like what works best for you. So one of my favorite bear rifles as of late is a custom Tikka T3X. This one's built by Unknown Munitions. So we got here walking through it, it's a Tikka T3X Action that's been lightened. It's been machined out to lighten it up. It's got an Ace cut rifle aftermarket barrel put on it, 20-inch. Is fit with an Unknown Munitions OG suppressor, which is a reflex design that fits back over the barrel. So I can have a full-length suppressor that only extends 4 inches off the end of the muzzle. You know, suppressors are, I think, the way to go with hunting, but you know, to minimize the extra length on the end of this, you know, shorter 20-inch barrel, that over barrel design works really well, and it balances and this rifle carries really well. One of the features on this, you know, customized action, it has nitrided raceways and nitrided bolt for like really smooth bolt flow. It's really quick to run. It's got a good trigger. Unknown Munitions rock stock. It's kind of a goofy looking stock with a steep reverse comb and flat bottom, but this is a stock that's made for shootability. So whether you're like bagged off a tripod, off a backpack, prone, like this is a really shootable stock that tracks well and manages recoil well. And by that I don't mean like that it keeps it from hurting you. It minimizes the disruption of your head so that you can stay in the scope and see more of your impacts, and that's something that's really conducive just to good shooting. You know, it's topped with Unknown Munitions rings and a Maven RS 1.2 2.5 to 15, you know, first focal plane scope. You know, it wouldn't hurt to go even with a lower power scope than this, but a 2.5 power on the low end is really a good option for bear hunting. So yeah, the front of the stock is fitted with, you know, has a Picatinny rail, a Spartan Precision like bipod adapter, and it's got QD sling cups on the side for easily carrying it if you want to use a sling. Now, although this is like a highly customized Tikka T3X, for factory rifles, just a regular Tikka T3X is an excellent option for a bear rifle. They're tough, durable, reliable. You know, they have the same slick action as this one does, and really just a staple, good all-around hunting rifle for bears. This one is chambered in 6mm Creedmoor, which is, you know, a lot of people might think is on the light side for bears, but black bears especially, again, like it's not hard to kill them, and using an efficient bullet that you can shoot really well and is gonna, you know, give you rapid expansion. My son and I killed a couple bears with this rifle this spring. One of them I was using the McGuire Ballistics copper monolithic bullet that expands violently. It creates real big wound cavities but still penetrates really well. There's a lot of good 6mm bullet options, and they kill bears like really dead. The key again with all of this is just being able to be very comfortable with your rifle, shoot accurately, and make quick, like concise follow-up shots if they're needed. Now, what I like about a rifle like this is it offers a lot of versatility. You know, it's set up to where I can make shots at several hundred yards and shoot off good support, but it's also handy and quick to, you know, quick cycling and easy to use in the brush, you know. So you can, what I have done in the past, you know, I have done is use this with a bag tripod setup, kind of run and gun, and you just pop the tripod, set it on the bag, and it allows you to shift positions and really just like run the gun quickly and accurately. That's the name of the game, is just being able to make concise shots when you need to and follow up quickly if you need to. Another rifle that I haven't killed a bear with yet, but if I was going brown bear hunting on Kodiak or the Peninsula tomorrow, I would probably take this. This is a custom rifle I've put together off a Springfield 2020 long action with a 20-inch 300 PRC barrel that's preferred barrel blanks. Got Hawkins bottom metal, using an MDT, you know, 300 PRC magazine right now, and an Iota Outdoors stock. I really like the feel and how well this stock drives. Got a nice wide fore end. I've got it fitted with an ARCA and pick rail kind of combo if I want to use a bipod or clamp it into a tripod, but that comes off just as easy too. And finally, it's tipped with Huxworks 36 cal flow titanium printed suppressor that really tames this things down and makes it nice to shoot. You know, if you're just running a bare 20 inches, it's kind of like riding the lightning shooting this thing. But this rifle with a 212 grain ELDX, I would have no hesitation shooting any bear on this planet with them. that combo and 300 PRC. I know several people have used it really successfully. I've shot a lot of stuff with that bullet, even down to a 30-06, and it works really well. And finally, for our budget-friendly folks out there, this Winchester XPR and 6.5 Creedmoor has killed more animals than climate change, and it's one of my favorite. I can't not mention this rifle. I killed a big grizzly bear with it a couple of years ago, and you can get these things for less than $500, and they have a pretty decent stock, good ergonomics, and a really slick action, and they're pretty accurate. So this is a great option too. All right, so we've talked about guide guns and hunting rifles, and now for what may be the most contentious category of bear guns is self-defense guns, particularly handguns. Now, all you need to know is you get yourself a big hog leg like this Colt Anaconda 44 and you're set, right?
Fires a 475 Wildy Magnum. Real stopping power.
Well, not quite so much. In fact, I think they're kind of a silly option considering everything you need to think about and what's practical. So when I first moved to Alaska, every old timer and gun store guy, brags about the 44 mag or 454 Casull that they carry on their hip. And it's been a really popular option. And that's not to say that they can't be a very effective bear defense option, but they've got some big drawbacks. I went through a phase of carrying big revolvers. I had a 480 Ruger, a 44, a 454. And what I found was I couldn't afford to practice with any of them. And I kind of got sick of carrying them. I would end up just leaving them when I knew I probably should be carrying them because they're so big and unwieldy, and they are just way more difficult to shoot than a modern semi-auto. But we'll give this thing a run for the money. What they do offer is more power, and generally that's just gives you more in terms of penetration. These super heavy duty hard cast bullets are common, and there's some other options, but these are still not rifle cartridges. You end up trading off a huge amount of recoil and sacrificing a lot of shootability for like a marginal gain in wound cavity. You might have better penetration, but these bullets are still just drilling holes. And then another big disadvantage is, I don't know if you knew this, but bears actually are around at night too. And at night, if you encounter a bear, it's really handy to have a flashlight on your gun. And most revolvers just don't accommodate that. And if they did, they would be like even more unwieldy. So I've set up a little drill here. Now you got to keep in mind that you cannot replicate an actual situation where you're having to defend yourself against a bear. But this should just give us an idea of actually putting this gun to use in a reasonable situation where you've got real thick brush and alders that you're dealing with, and nothing's going to be as clean cut as shooting it on a square range, and so we'll just see how it goes. We'll try to put 2 shots in each. I've got these targets staggered, put 2 shots in each, kind of backpedaling, as if I'm having to move and maneuver on this bear. And I've got a shot timer that I'll just kick things off.
Skin that smoke wagon and see what happens.
Ouch. And this is a bigger revolver that is a little bit more shootable than a lot of what's out there. Like probably the most ideal carry revolver for the backcountry is Smith & Wesson 329 PD. That's a really lightweight 44 mag. It's nice to carry, but it is absolutely punishing to shoot. And I've managed to get good hits on this bear. Like, it's not saying you can't stop it, but it's not ideal, at least in my opinion. All right, so if you consider all the things that really matter, which is getting shots on target and something that's easy to carry and convenient to carry that you're going to have all the time, You got to follow advice of good old Tommy Lee Jones and just get yourself a Glock.
Get yourself a Glock. Lose that nickel-plated sissy pistol.
The G20 is pretty much the golden standard of bear defense, in today's day and age. Now, it's a Glock 10mm semi-automatic pistol. They're just as reliable as any revolver. Really common. I don't know if they're just a Glock and they just work. There's a few different variants, and there's some other like good 10mm options out there, but for anybody that just wants a good direction to go in, a Glock G20 is a great place to start. Now, this particular G20 belongs to my good friend Brett, who just a few weeks ago was stomping through, some thick brush and alder thicket just like this, and walked into a big grizzly bear on a moose kill. And that bear charged him from about 10 yards, and him and his buddy each got 8 rounds into that bear, with this pistol and the other pistol, and were able to stop it at 5 yards. And, when you talk about all this, it's easy to fantasize and, try to make up these scenarios. But what ultimately matters is having a gun with you and ready that you can practice with and be very proficient with, and you can shoot accurately and consistently. And that's what saved him in that case. And you're seeing all the time more cases of people successfully using, a G20 or similar pistol to defend themselves. That looks like 2, 4. I think I shot that thing 5 times maybe. And not that long, and all like pretty solid hits. I mean, the thing, you're not going to John Wick it, but with training, you can shoot this thing accurately. The recoil cycle's not that disruptive, and you can shoot quickly. If you ever, heaven forbid, have to shoot a bear in self-defense, you are going to have to shoot him more than one time. You're kind of delusional. The age-old argument is, well, you're only going to get one shot. That might be true, but if you're going to stop that bear, you're going to have to shoot him more than once. And it just makes it so much easier when you have a lot of bullets and a shootable platform like this. So finally, we are left with the most boring yet very effective bear defense option, a 12-gauge slug gun. Now, these, you could almost just pick a model. A lot of these 12-gauge pump guns are very affordable and kind of universal, like controls are all similar. And a lot of agencies use them because they're cheap and they're easy to train on, easy to get parts for, and the ammunition isn't too expensive, compared to $2,000+ .375 that ammo costs $90 a box. There certainly are some benefits to using the 12-gauge. The kind of the go-to slugs are these Brennecke Black Magic 3-inch mag slugs that are 1 3/8 ounce, just huge chunk of lead. And they are pretty effective at stopping bears. They act a little bit more like a giant handgun bullet than a high-power rifle, but they get the job done, and this platforms are usually really shootable. So let's see what we can do running through this drill. So there you have it. There is no best bear gun. There's a lot of great bear guns. And what makes a bear gun great is how well you can use it in a given situation. So focus on what matters, which is how comfortable you are with a gun, how well you can shoot it. Pick something that's practical that you're going to practice with, and that's going to serve you a lot better than chasing what somebody on the internet tells you, or chasing after a big Magnum caliber. Pick something that's reasonable, practical, and will work in your circumstance, and you're not going to be disappointed.